And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, everybody? Gene Berardelli, Ross Galloway here. Ross, how you doing, pal?
What's going on, man? Less than 2 weeks to go.
Oh, listen, well, we titled this episode about closing arguments, and and some of them are going to be bad. But first, before we start the show, I need to pay homage to my fallen New York Mets. They had an amazing run into the NLCS, and it was absolutely magical, man. It was a good time. I really enjoyed myself with it.
Gene, we talked about this a little bit before the show, and I'm embarrassed to admit I got fooled, man. I got swept up in the Mets fever, and I really believed that they were gonna do it. I actually lost some money.
Well, you actually bet on the Mets.
I bet on the Mets.
Even Met fans know you don't bet on the Mets.
Every Met fan I've come across has been making fun of me for doing that, but they all fooled me. They look like they believed it.
Well, I mean, we believed, but then we also can't deny what we saw in, as the games went on. It seemed like a couple of pitches ran out of steam. They poured their heart into it. 172 games, not a joke. But they made us proud. I was very, very, very happy with everybody.
All right, next year.
Thank you, Christy, for calling to us from the Peach State for the $1.99 donut. We haven't even done anything yet to deserve that. So thank you for that, sweetheart. I really appreciate that. We do have a great show as people are starting to gather in and come hang out with us for a little bit. We're glad you're here with us, wherever you may be, even if you're in Georgia. Just kidding to the Georgians out there. It's the Mets fandom coming out in me. I can't help that sometimes. But yeah, we got I'd say a fairly organized show waiting for us right now. Before we get into anything, the usual stips, guys and gals, and everybody in between, please share the show with your friends. Like the show wherever you're watching, whether it be on X, it's on Rumble, it's on YouTube, wherever you're finding us. Just smash that thumbs up button for us. And please subscribe to the channel wherever you are. This is how the show grows. And hopefully you'll like what you see in this particular show as we begin to talk about sort of the tea leaves that we're going to be reading going into the election right now. Oh, Rick Robinson is messing with us already. It was a pity payment from Christy because of the Met game. Well, listen, we got to recoup Galloway's gambling losses somehow, don't we? And that's kind of the way we have to do things. Go ahead.
And by the way, there's a guy named Menachem in the chat.
Yeah, he popped in and out real quick. I don't know what happened to him, but yeah, Menachem from Marine Park, shout out to you as well. Name from the past, really. We're glad you followed us from radio into this right now. I remember he was like a first-time caller, long-time listener on the show a couple of times. It was fun to talk to him.
He's stalking us. All right.
I'm glad he's stalking us. I'm glad he's here with us. Let's get into the first topic here, and that is a discussion of early voting that we're seeing in a lot of the battleground states here. So, Ross, I don't know if you've noticed this, and frankly, I didn't put up the clip to talk about it. Maybe I should right now. Let me find this clip right now to get the conversation started concerning the activity we're seeing in the early voting grounds that seem to be pointing the way towards Republicans having a good election cycle.
Yeah, and on that note, I lost track of this, Gene. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you real quick, New York, do they have early voting now there?
I think we have some form of early voting. I don't know when exactly it starts or not. I can certainly look it up while we're looking at this clip, though. So let's go through this first. Listen to this and tell me what you take from it.
Let's bring in ABC's Washington bureau chief and political director, Rick Klein, with the breakdown of the latest numbers. And Rick, we're already seeing meaningful signs in who's casting those early ballots.
Yeah, Martha, the final day of voting still 16 days away, but already more than 13 million Americans have cast their ballots. Now, that's actually down significantly from where it was 4 years ago. But of course, that was the COVID year when record numbers of people were voting early and by mail. In Georgia, just this past week, the first day of in-person voting set a new record. So it does look like we're on track to have a very high turnout election, particularly in the battleground states. In fact, there's more than 1 million people that have voted early already in both Georgia and Michigan. Now, we're not going to know for a while, till election night or even later than that, exactly who people voted for. But based on the likely partisanship of the voters that we've seen so far, we're seeing more Republicans as a share of the electorate than Democrats. Take a look at that. 4 years ago, less than a third, only 32% of people that had voted so far were Republicans. That's up 6 points so far this cycle. Now, that could be a sign of enthusiasm among Republicans. It could be because Donald Trump is sometimes at least supporting early voting. And it may.
Well, let's take a look at this chart, pal. I know he mentioned, Mr. Klein here mentioned the +6 from the last presidential cycle for Republican early voting, but he neglected to mention the -4 on the Democrat side. That's a 10-point swing.
Yeah. Well, not only the swing, it's the total votes too. So that the numbers percentage-wise might be somewhat impressive, and I am impressed by what the Republicans are imagining to do here. But when you look at the overall numbers, early voting period is down. And who will that hurt more? The Democrats, right? Because that's where they stole the election basically on the last one. And by steal, I do mean it literally, right? They had millions of early votes and mail-in votes. And this cycle, they're down by 30, 40, maybe 50% in some of these states.
Yeah. Oh, so Jeff wanted to say early, the worst part about living in Vermont during election season is hearing all the commercials from New York and New Hampshire. Really? Is that the worst part about living in Vermont? Really? I mean, no offense to anybody from Vermont on here other than Jeff, of course, but is that really the worst part about living in Vermont? It's not.
But I'm curious, who's spending money in New York on commercials?
There are a couple of races that are close. You have Mondaire Jones going up against Michael Lawler in New York.
It's the congressional seats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And you'll get, so you probably maybe get some from Long Island, but some close races in the People's Republic of New York. Yes, there are a couple.
I was going to say, listen, I drank the Kool-Aid. I do think New York's in play because Trump said it, joking. But I can't imagine they'd be spending a lot of money, neither him nor Kamala.
Oh, no. New York, I think New York's pretty locked up. Which is why I disagree with Trump coming to New York for that rally in Madison Square Garden. It's kind of stupid. But I know what you're saying about the chart here with the early tally numbers and how they're down, and that also favors Republicans here, I think, especially Trump. But he really didn't make it clear if this is the number comparing the length of time in early voting back in 2020 or if this was 2020 total. You know what I mean? If it's down from 2020 to date, then yeah, I would agree with you. But if it's just the first week of early voting and maybe you're going to end up with 10, 12 million by the end of it when it's all said and done in the states that he's mentioning there, that could be significant.
I'm hoping that's this date in history because Pennsylvania, they are significantly down. Ryan Godersky's been doing a pretty good job tracking that.
Our boy Ryan, we can say we knew him when, he's did a couple of shows with us and had a good time doing it. I'm glad to see all the success he's having as well. But yeah, he is killing it.
Yeah.
Let's go through some raw numbers though. And I want you to be able to see these, pal. This is up to date, up to the moment. Let me get the banner down for a moment here. This is up to the minute news of the date that we're taping this live. We're looking at the RCP average, and it's Trump across the board. Highest in Arizona, but holding his own in Pennsylvania as well. Surprising that he's holding on in North Carolina. I've heard some numbers there that shows a lot more of a female vote coming out early, and people seem to think that that's bad for Trump, and also the top of the ticket drag for governor going on there as well. And of course, Georgia, he's doing well as well here. Pretty interesting stuff here, my friend, that Trump is leading in these battlegrounds.
Yeah, and the numbers are small with the when you consider the average. But the real thing to look at, and I encourage everyone to go to Real Clear and take a look at it, because when you click on these individual states, it'll show you this date in history for 2016 and 2020. And in all of these places, including the national average, Trump was down about 5 or 6 points to Hillary Clinton in a lot of these places on this date in 2016. And with Biden, he was down even more, like 8-9 points in a lot of these places, right? So for Trump to actually be ahead in the average this late in the game, if there's any polling error in favor of Trump, he's gonna walk away with this thing. And additionally, to get these averages red, leaning Trump, that means the trend line had to be going Trump for the last several weeks, because she had a significant lead in the average for most of September. It wasn't until October where he started getting slight leads in these polls. So that this is the trend. The momentum is on Trump's side for sure.
Yeah, the trend is certainly his friend, considering comparisons to 2020. But also remember, Trump traditionally underpolls in races. In the last two races, the polls had overestimated Democrat support. So even though that Biden was trending around, I guess, like 3 to 5% in most battlegrounds, he was actually it was much closer than that in those battlegrounds as well. So if this is what the polls are saying, and the trend is his friend, seems like Trump is doing pretty well. He's sitting pretty when it comes to these numbers.
Yep. And just a quick note on North Carolina. So North Carolina, their early voting numbers are through the roof, and the Republicans are coming out en masse. So my suspicion on the last few polls that came out in North Carolina that show Harris either tied or a little bit ahead, I don't think they can find these voters. Many of them were displaced, but they're figuring out a way to vote, I think. Right? So Trump won North Carolina both in 2016 and 2020. I don't see him losing it. Nothing post-Hurricane Helene would indicate that Trump would lose support in North Carolina. It's just not happening.
Well, time will tell on that. I do want to focus on one aspect of this turnout, this early voting turnout. There's no way for us to really tell, based upon like the actual numbers themselves, whether the surge in early voting that we're seeing is the result of what we like to call triple prime voters showing up early, or if there are new voters coming to the polls right now. Except in Pennsylvania, I did find some numbers here about the propensity of the voter turning out right now. So this was courtesy of a reporter named Eric Doherty out of Florida, who's been crunching a lot of numbers on X. And as you see here, based upon his evaluation, the Democrats are leading in Pennsylvania with the mail-in vote, but Republicans are turning out what they call low propensity voters, people who don't normally turn out to vote. That's an encouraging sign for Trump once again.
100%. And the question that you raised is actually an important one, right? So Republicans are embracing somewhat this voting early strategy. Are they voters who would have voted anyway on election day? Valid question. I heard this earlier today, and I believe it. 90% of people that intend to vote on election day will make it to the polls. But 10%, for whatever reason, they got a flat tire, they got stuck at work late, the kid got sick, whatever it could be, somewhere between 5 and 10% of people who fully intended to vote on election day don't make it. This is one of the reasons why we have to embrace the early voting, right? Because, yeah, they might have been people who intended to vote anyway on election day, but if 10% of your base doesn't wind up voting, that can translate into 2% out of the general election, 2, 3, 4%, right? So bank these votes early, and instead of 90% getting to the polls, we get to 95, 96% of people who intend to vote actually vote. That's the difference in a lot of these states that were decided by less than 1 point.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who don't know, a low propensity voter, a voter that doesn't normally turn out, that's like getting 2 votes, because you're cutting into the Democrats' advantage in voter turnout, like he's talking about here in Pennsylvania, and you're adding 1 to your column that wouldn't have been there but for your efforts in trying to turn out that vote. The more of those 1 and 2 vote conversions that you can get, it doubles its value, really.
Yeah, and if you're out there in a place like Pennsylvania or anywhere else that has a competitive Senate race, you gotta vote for that Republican running for the Senate, right? A lot of the things that you want to happen simply cannot happen unless you control both houses of Congress, right? Because even with the Senate, it's going to be real hard to do things because you're never going to get 60 votes on your column, right? You're going to have to convince some Democrats to come across. But if you don't have the 51, you're not going to get anything ever. It's just not going to be possible.
That's absolutely correct. So we've talked about the 30,000-foot view of battleground states in general. We zoomed in on Pennsylvania, which we know is a pivotal state for both candidates. It's sort of a must-win for both of them. We've talked about the voter gravity, really, of who's turning out, whether it be high turnout triple prime voters or low propensity voters. We haven't talked about the ethnicity or religious background or anything like that. But we do have some data we can pull from concerning that. There was recently a poll done by YouGov and Arab News, which has some surprising results and may impact what we're seeing in a place like Michigan, or what we might see in other urban areas around the country. Let me just see if I can find this for us here, see what it's titled as. Because, show prep, whatever. I'm kind of good at it. Okay, I just found it. So, just vamp for me a second here, bud. I'll be with you in a second. I just found it now. Here it is. Let me put that up on the screen now. This is Stream of Consciousness, yes. So let me, before we get to the fun, this is from Arab News Research and Studies and YouGov. They put together a nice polling package here of what Arab Americans want. They the reason why I take polls like this credible is because, as you see here, there is a breakdown of their methodology, the breakdown of the gender, the marital status, the education levels, the age groups. Lots of good stuff here and some information you can check out. And then when you get to the polls, you get to this. This is the meat and potatoes of it. Which of the following candidates would you be most likely to vote for? Two things I take from this. Trump is up by 2, and Jill Stein is over 4%, with an undecided of 6. So that might shift the balance one way or the other. But I did not expect this to be nearly as close as what you're seeing here, pal.
Well, what I love is that the Democrats' strategy of identity politics is blowing up in their face. Right? They can't cater to the Jewish bloc and the Arab bloc / Muslim bloc with a message. There's no way they can get both of them. So they're going to piss off one, the other, or both. And it seems like Kamala's doing an excellent job of pissing off both constituencies, especially the Arab Americans, right? Who are, I would argue, are probably less likely to vote for a female candidate to begin with. And Trump is doing very well with male voters of all ethnicities and religions, especially the Arabs.
Well, I think people underestimate the religious conservatism of the population as well. I think that Democrats see color and just assume that they're in their column, but it's not that easy, I don't think, anymore.
No. And the perfect example of that really is, and this is delicious that this blew up in their face too, Trump is actually leading in several polls amongst Hispanic voters, right? The legal citizens with Hispanic origins are leaning Trump, right? That is a disaster. I guarantee you, if somehow the Democrats ever regain power, if that holds steady, where Hispanic voters are leaning Republican, they will move to close that border ASAP.
I would think so. Deborah, thanks for the comment. Those undecided voters are slowly coming out of the woodwork. And I think because of early voting, we're seeing that. By the way, People's Republic of New York, October 26th is when early voting starts. There's only 1 week of early voting. You mentioned the Hispanic vote. I didn't grab anything on that. But when we go back to the RCP battleground averages that they're finding, you see Arizona, Trump is up almost 2 points. And if you look at what's happening in Florida right now, remember when Florida used to be a swing state? It ain't swinging no more. When you're having turnout in Miami-Dade that is huge for Trump right now. I never thought I'd see the day that a big city like a Miami would turn red, pal. It's proof that it can happen.
Yeah, I was listening to Senator Marco Rubio the other day, and he was saying, historically in Florida, you can lose Miami-Dade and still win the state, but you got to keep it somewhat close. He said he's thinking Miami-Dade is going to be red for sure this election. And speaking of Hispanics in other places, the chart you had up from Real Clear, they have a high voter population in both Arizona and Nevada. Now, Arizona historically leaned right. So that one should be secure, right? Even though it has a very large Hispanic population, and I think that they're going to solidify that. Nevada is the more interesting one to me. Nevada is not really, does not lean right. It might be considered a swing state, but it goes Democrat more often than not as of late, right? But a very large Hispanic population in Nevada, I think, is tipping the scales in Trump's favor.
Funny you should mention Nevada. I did show prep on this too. This is from the Nevada Independent. They keep a running blog about early voting here. So this was updated. Looks like the last update was early this morning as we taped the show. Statewide, Republican plus 12,000 or 3.5%. And they're talking about the Clark County firewall, which is what's in Las Vegas. So in all total, 333,000 people voted. If turnout reaches 1.4 million, that means just under a quarter of the vote would be in. The mail pushed Clark County's share of the vote to just under 73%. But when you look at the numbers, Republicans have a 2.5% turnout edge. What does this mean according to this article? It means that if you look at the numbers right now, Trump turnout is about plus 12,000-ish or so, as we said earlier. Harris needs to be winning independent voters by double digits to be winning if she and Trump hold on to their bases. So if Republicans vote Republican, Democrats vote Democrat, Harris needs to win independents by more than 10%. According to this blog, Republicans usually win election day, so you would rather be them right now. And asking the same question that we were asking before is who exactly is showing up to vote? Is it the same voters in rural Nevada going on right now? Or is it low propensity voters that we're seeing in Pennsylvania, pal?
Yeah. So a quick note on independent voters, people who claim to be independent and are not registered in either the Republican or Democratic Party. My view on those people they are from one of two camps. First camp is they are a disaffected Republican, right? They, like me, really. I don't want to be associated with the Republican Party. I despise them. But I will never vote for a liberal Democrat. That I'm not going to pull a Liz Cheney and run around with Kamala Harris and vote for her because I just can't, right? But I don't like the Republican Party. So what do you do? You register independent, you flirt with the Libertarians or a conservative party in New York, some third party, but you come back home and you vote for the Republican candidate. Most of them, the vast majority of disaffected Republicans. The other side of that coin are disaffected Democrats. But those ones are the Tulsi Gabbards and RFK Juniors of the world, where the party left them. And now they can no longer be a Democrat. Now, I know Tulsi Gabbard just announced she is now a Republican, but RFK Jr. likely will never become a Republican. But he's certainly not a Democrat anymore. But now he falls into that independent camp. So whenever the race is going to be decided by independents, I think the Republicans have a huge edge when that's the decision.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, breaking just in from a friend of the show that prefers to remain anonymous because they are they're working the elections right now. At least one organization that's on the ground there is claiming to have hired at least 20,000 poll watchers statewide in Pennsylvania. That tells me that Trump is taking the ground game very seriously in a very important state. We're breaking that right here. I'm unfortunately going to have to use the whole trust me, bro, for this. But this is from a credible source who is on the ground in the Keystone State right now.
Gene just turned into CBS News right before our very eyes. He has one
anonymous source. Oh, I was just corrected. It's actually 10 times more than I just said. 200,000 poll watchers have been signed up.
1 million.
1 million poll workers. Yes, exactly. So, obviously take all of this with a grain of salt. I encourage you to take it with a grain of salt. Christy, by the way, in the chat, I don't know if she put this out there, so I guess we can say this. She agrees with you about the RFK factor. She was out in swing states getting Cornel West people and Kennedy and helping to get Cornel West and Kennedy on the ballot so they can chip away at the Democratic advantage in the on the ballot in other states. Obviously, that was the whole strategy that RFK Jr. wanted to have in certain swing states that he wasn't able to achieve based upon election laws that we discussed previously. But all in all, pal, how are you feeling about the chances of a Trump victory as compared to 2020?
I mean, I just lost a significant amount of money on the Mets, so my
It's a
betting
friendly
is-
wager, goddammit.
But my judgment might be clouded. He's in a much better position now than he was either in 2016 or 2020. I don't know if you could feel the energy, but he hit his stride. And the Democrats are basically into Trump is Hitler, Mussolini, going to turn the military against you mode and lock up your political opponents. And Joe Biden was on TV today saying we got to lock Donald Trump up, right? So that's where they're at. And if that's where they're at, I'm feeling pretty good about our chances right now. They're pretty much, they know they're done.
Absolutely. And man, what a segue. Ross Galloway, master of the segue here. We're going to be talking about sort of the ratcheting up of the rhetorical temperature from the Democrats. And you had mentioned Joe Biden and what he said campaigning for Kamala Harris. And I just so happened to have prepared the clip for that, pal.
Education. He's talking, he means it. This is not a joke.
All right, can we just go back for a second? Joe?
He is talking about doing away with the entire...
Joe, the podium. The other way. The podium's right there, man. I guess the cameraman's going to have to do the work for him.
Department of Education. He's talking, he means it. This is not a joke. This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant. Every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him.
Pew pew and unalive? Did he really go there?
Yeah.
This is the new. They're gonna lock y'all back up in chains. The fear mongering it's back.
But Gene, I feel like we time traveled. Donald Trump had 2 attempts on his life, one of which he was shot in the head. The left constantly says we need to turn down the temperature, and then they say things like this, just flippantly, and no one calls them on it. Why didn't no? And if you watch, I know we're gonna watch the rest of the clip. They cheer. That his drones cheered that the sitting president, that senile train wreck that he is talking about his opponent and threatening to throw him in jail while he's actively facing charges by this guy's DOJ and talking about killing him.
And if you don't believe that, here's the rest of the clip.
I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up.
Politically lock him up. Is that any different than locking him up? You're going to lock him up as a political prisoner. That's, I know he tried to save it there, but lock him up that's Banana Republic stuff.
Biden, I think everyone can now admit this, even though Kamala can't. Biden clearly has some kind of dementia, right? There's something going on there. He has moments where the truth comes out of his mouth. I don't know. I'm not going to go into a tangent here, but he let slip during a press conference once that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline will cease to exist if Putin invades Ukraine. And then it blew up under mysterious circumstances, right? He sits in briefings, he gets classified information, he talks to his DOJ in these secret meetings, and then he comes out and his brain misfires and he spills the beans, right? That I know, my heart of hearts tells me that he talked to somebody about locking Trump up, and that's what started all this.
Could be. It got stuck in his head somehow here. By the way, Rick having some fun with us. I'm sorry. Did he did what to whom for how many jelly donuts? Guys, don't fuck around with food. Just don't do that. I'm trying to do a show here. And then Jeff following up, I'd kill a hobo right now for a jelly donut. You guys are having too much fun without me in the chat. I'm glad you're having fun in the chat. And while you're out there in the chat, because we're just about halftime on the show here, Thanks for showing up for us here behind Enemy Lines. I'm Gene. He's Ross. And while we got you on the internet, because we know you're on the internet, because this is an internet-based show, be sure to like, share, subscribe wherever you are, whether it's on YouTube, on Rumble, on X. Help out the show. Spread the word. Let everybody know that we're here. And listen, we'd really appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out and having a conversation with us about what's going on. And currently we're talking about the ratcheting up of the rhetoric coming from the Harris campaign. It's not just stupid stuff by this, and they're still going on with the donuts in the chat. Thanks, Menachem. Really appreciate that one. Ass. By the way, isn't it Simchat Torah? Why are you out right now?
Oh gosh.
I think someone might have just gotten caught right there. Anyways, it's not just the ratcheting up of the temperature and the rhetoric towards Trump. It's also the virtue signal to the left and the far left from Kamala Harris talking about Trump. Well, let's get to the one talking about Trump first, and then we'll get to the one about policy. Kamala Harris went out there. Did I put this clip up? I may not have. Okay, well, you know what? Let's go with the other one talking about policy. In a recent interview with NBC News, Kamala Harris had this to say to a question concerning reproductive rights and abortion.
Questions would be on the table. Religious exemptions, for example, is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
To Republicans like, for example, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who would back something like this on a Democratic agenda if, in fact, Republicans control Congress, would you offer them an olive branch, or is that off the table? Is that not an option for you?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals.
So you got that? She's usurping your fundamental right to practice your religion, those of you who are in healthcare, by creating a new fundamental right, the right to take a life living inside a human womb. So if that doesn't sound extreme to you, I don't know what will, to be perfectly honest. What do you think about this clip, pal? Do you think that Kamala Harris is so scared about the election that she has to start pulling from the far left? And that's why we're seeing this increase in volatility on the left? Uh-oh, I think we lost Galloway here. I'm frozen? Hold on a second. Am I frozen here, guys? Let me get into the private chat here. Hang on. Are we having connection issues?
You were frozen for a minute.
Oh, I was frozen for a minute.
I think
okay,
you're back.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that, guys. I appreciate it. If I'm back and you guys can hear me here, I was talking. Did you hear the clip? Ross, did you hear the clip, or
No.
are you frozen? Okay, so I'm gonna play. We're gonna play it one more time for you so you can hear what's going on here. If it doesn't start for you in the next 5 seconds, let me know.
What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example, is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
To Republicans like, for example, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who would back something like this on a Democratic agenda if, in fact, Republicans control Congress, would you offer them an olive branch, or is that off the table? Is that not an option for you?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals.
So did you get it that time? I'm guessing you didn't get it that time. So maybe that clip, I think the clip is bad, and maybe that's why we can't do it. So let me summarize. So let me summarize what we just saw. Possibly, if for those of you who were watching, if you let me know if it's screwed up there, please let me know. So it was a clip from NBC News that I'll put into post, and it basically said that Kamala Harris was not willing to give concessions for religious exemptions for abortions, and said when pressed further, and this was a shock to me, a random act of journalism from NBC News, when pressed further, she said that she's not going to engage in hypotheticals about adding exceptions. So basically, she's taking away a fundamental right to practice religion in favor of creating a fundamental right to kill a baby inside a womb. Pretty extreme stuff there, pal.
Yeah, and regardless of what you think about abortion on its face, because there was another part of that answer that she said where She didn't want to engage in hypotheticals, and she would leave that decision between a woman and her doctor. And she wouldn't put herself in the place of a doctor. That's pretty rich coming from an administration that mandated an experimental mRNA vaccine on damn near the whole country, right?
Yeah.
Lots of guys in the military got thrown out. It wasn't between them and their doctor. It was between Kamala Harris and Dr. Joe Biden, right? They didn't have a problem getting involved then. But with abortion, she can't give a straight answer. I respect your views on politics, right? If you have an opinion and a stance. Kamala Harris is an empty pantsuit. She has no opinion. She can't give her position on anything. Every position she had when she ran the first time is different today. And when they call her out on it, she won't even say which one is true, the one that her staff said a couple of weeks ago or the one she said a few years ago.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way about the what's going on with Harris here. But I really want to know, just as we're in the last 2 weeks, Kamala Harris is trying to pull from the far left with a statement like this, right? And if that's correct, doesn't that mean that there's a sign of panic about how the Harris camp is thinking this early voting is going?
I think you're giving her specifically too much credit. I don't think she has any strategy in that head of hers, right? It's an empty head. She has no idea. You could see the stunned look on her face every time she gets a question from a reporter that asks a real question. And these are not even like gotcha questions. They're just very simple. Like, where do you stand on this issue? They didn't, like with Trump, they always like start a question with a statement to make him look bad and then throw a zinger question at him, like a gotcha question. With these, it's just like, hey, on the topic of abortion, would you have any exceptions? Right? And you're pretty much free to answer the question, but look at the fear on her face as the windup is happening from the reporter. I truly don't think she's strategizing to try to get the far left or the middle. She has no idea what to say. She doesn't want to piss off her handlers, whoever those people may be.
Is it fear at the follow-up question, or is it anger that a friendly outlet like MSDNC or NBC News or whoever it was that was a part of this, is it anger towards them for daring to ask a follow-up question that may be potentially damaging to her campaign? That's what I think. I think it's more that she's pissed off than anything else.
Well, she's definitely pissed off because she doesn't want. It's anger and fear, but the fear gene is any question, right? She's afraid. She doesn't want to speak publicly. Like, is she going to go on Joe Rogan? I thought the deal was if Trump did Joe Rogan, she goes on Joe Rogan. That's like a 2-hour sit down where you get to talk a lot. Joe Rogan's an excellent interviewer. He lets you talk, right? But she can't do that, right? She'd be mad at Joe Rogan if he asked her some questions, but she's afraid. She won't even go do it. I guarantee. And Joe Rogan is not a Republican, right? He's down the middle.
And he has some far left tendencies as well.
Yes.
Joe Rogan also listens to answers and asks thoughtful follow-ups. Rather, I'm reading Jeff's comment here. Embrace the power of, and merch is now in the KLRN store. There you go. Oh my goodness! See, they're grifting for me now, pal. I love it. Yeah, I think that she'll never go on Joe Rogan, and I hope she proves me wrong, because if she can sit for a 2-hour grilling with Joe, and like I said, Joe listens to answers, has clips ready with his crew, and is able to think on his feet and talk from a place of common sense, that, I've seen, guests torn up that didn't have any substance to their answers. I think the show that comes to mind for me is the one with Adam Conover, when he started talking about trans issues and had no substance behind his opinion. And it was just a complete disaster for him. So, yeah. But that's the difference with Trump, though, and I'm going to reiterate your point, pal. Trump is willing to stand up to that grilling. He's willing to be challenged, and he'll challenge right back and push right back on you. He definitely has the advantage in rhetorical, extemporaneous speaking.
Yeah, and Trump will sit there for an unlimited amount of time. The one thing I will be extraordinarily disappointed with Joe Rogan is if he makes a deal with Harris to do like a 30-minute sit down, right? Because that's not his format. His format is long format, and you have a long, nice discussion, and you vet out a bunch of issues there. Trump will have no problem sitting down for 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever Rogan wants to do. Kamala can't do that, right? So if she makes some crazy deal with Rogan to sit for 20 or 30 minutes, I'll be very disappointed in him.
No, I hope it's at least an hour long, preferably like 90 minutes around there. I think anything over 90 minutes, Trump is going to talk himself into an issue.
Oh, 100%. But, this kind of got swept under the rug, too. Why didn't CBS release the transcript of the 45 or so minutes with Harris? They only aired 21 minutes of that interview. Where are the other 4 minutes? I want to see what she said. What other crazy... And, for those of you listening, they went and edited an answer. They inserted an answer from a different question. They're claiming they didn't do it, so release the transcript or the full video. They did it with so many other interviews. Why won't they do it with her? If she couldn't do a 45-minute interview with CBS, a friendly forum, she's not going on Joe Rogan.
And by the way, if you recall, the Harris camp's response to that was that Trump was ducking CBS and going on 60 Minutes himself. Yet they forget what happened the last time he went on 60 Minutes with Leslie Stahl. We mentioned it on the show prior, where they basically tried to debunk his Hunter Biden allegations back in 2020. And it turns out that they were completely wrong and that Trump was right. So why would you go back to an outlet that lied during your own interview? And now they're being shown to lie in favor of Kamala Harris with the selective editing that they did for the different clips they put out for that 60 Minutes interview. By the way, CBS, let me say this as clearly as I can. Fuck you for actually coming after this channel with a copyright strike. It's newsworthy stuff. We gave you time to get it out there, and we just used your own clips and commented on them. It's commentary. It's fair use, you motherfuckers. Don't do that again, or I'll have to give you a thrashing. That's what I'm going to say towards CBS News, though.
Wow, Gene's got a vendetta with CBS.
I got to talk to my vendetta manager. I got to see if I can swap one out and put CBS into it. Hopefully, I have a spot open. We all as a group, all our friend group, we need to get together with our vendetta managers and do like our annual management to see how we're doing. For those of you who don't know, we have a rule in our friend group of 3 personal vendettas and 1 institutional, I believe it is. So I dropped a lot of my personal ones once I moved out of Brooklyn, and I still maintain an institutional one. So I may have to talk to my vendetta manager about that. How are you doing with your vendettas? You okay?
Let me speak on vendettas for a quick second here. So the Democrats are clearly shitting in their pants. Trump has a vendetta, right? Like, they're trying to put him in jail still. Right?
Talk about someone who needs a vendetta manager. My God.
Right? He's saying he's not going to get back at him or whatever. We all know he is. And they're scared shitless, right? My real question, though, with just now that that's out there, Gene, they're calling the man a dictator. They're calling him Hitler. They're making up new hoaxes on things he said about soldiers. And they're saying that he's going to turn the American military against his domestic enemies to kill them, use lethal force. That's what they're saying. So if all of that is what they believe, how do they have a peaceful transition of power come January 2025? Right? If the very state of our republic is at stake, how do they have a peaceful transition? How do they not cheat? How do they not try to assassinate him? Right? Nothing's off the table if the country itself is at risk. Like, these people are dangerous. They are a threat to democracy. And I know we got to move on. But
no, you're good.
A recent poll I seen, I know we don't have this one ready. I should have sent it to you. Fox had this up. That Trump is beating Harris on the question of who is better to protect democracy. Trump has her beat by like 3 points, right? It's backfiring on them. They are the threat to democracy. And I fear for what they're going to do between now and January.
I agree with you on that. Man, I wish we had that poll. But yeah, the other thing that they're mad about with Trump, besides him being a threat to democracy and the bad man from World War II and all that stuff that we're seeing, and that he needs to be locked up, is they're very upset that he was a fry cook at McDonald's. Very, very upset. The Democrats kept this news story about a very innocuous visit to a McDonald's in the Philadelphia area and turned it into a 72-hour story in the news cycle. Thanks, Democrats. We really appreciate that. And it's all because of scenes like this. Oh, wait, gotta get to the beginning. Thanks, Forbes.
First day at McDonald's, I'm looking for a job. So if you don't mind, I want to work the French fry counter.
Absolutely.
Okay, how much you paying me?
How much you paying me? I love that. But there he is, working the fry cooker. He's going to be working the window, talking to everyday folks that were vetted, by the way. And yeah, I don't understand what the big deal with this was. What was the big deal with Trump the fry cook?
Gene, I don't know if you know, but that was staged. Trump didn't literally drive down the street and go into a random McDonald's and start working and handing out food through an open drive-through window.
You mean to tell me that this scene right here, that you're seeing right... Oh, sorry, I keep getting Forbes' thing up there. You mean to tell me this guy right here, who's working the fry stand, this wasn't real?
You're so fucking pathetic, right?
Bro, here's what I don't get. Everything's a political stunt. Every single thing a candidate does. You don't think that, to your point earlier, the man endured what? 2 or 3 different assassination attempts. We're not confirming on the third, but at least 2. You're going to think the Secret Service is going to clear going into a McDonald's in public where any rando can walk into with no security, no metal detection, no nothing, and just have him walk there behind the counter and start working the fries. Right. Is that what people honestly think what happened here? Thank God we had Democrats telling us that this was a stunt. I wouldn't have known.
Absurd. Now, the reason why Trump pulls this off so well, by the way, is not only is he a man of the people, but look at him. He's got his tie on, his white shirt, and his cufflinks still on. He doesn't go to these places and put on a fake accent or roll up his sleeves with a plaid shirt out in the farmlands. He doesn't do that. He's Donald Trump. He's got hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and he's doing a political stunt at McDonald's, but he doesn't fake himself. You know what I mean? Kamala goes to different places, throws on a different accent. You see all these other politicians rolling up their sleeves, speaking in front of a haystack. Like it's absurd.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in Iowa, they're working the state fair and all that stuff. But you mentioned the clothing and everything. You know, Democrats even made fun of him wearing the fancy shirt and everything. This is a clip from MSDNC with Congresswoman Barbara Lee reacting to Trump's stunt here. So let's take a look at that real quick.
Donald Trump is doing right now. He has gone to a McDonald's. He's gone to this McDonald's and he's in the Philadelphia area. He's going to work a fryer, apparently, before he goes to the Steelers versus Jets game.
And by the way, thank you, President Trump, for enduring the Steelers-Jets game. I don't know how any New Yorker or former New Yorker could endure the Jets right now. But back to the clip.
I mean, if you're on his campaign, and I know you are certainly not, I'm not making any implication of that, but what is the logic behind this, going to a McDonald's? I mean, we know the guy likes Big Macs and filet of fish, and he's used the word love to describe the way he feels about the food there before. But what's this about?
All right, before Barbara Lee answers, you answer it, pal. What is this about?
What is it about? I mean, what is it about? Okay. Not only is he just meeting voters, he actually does truly love McDonald's, right? But Kamala Harris claimed she worked at a McDonald's. No record can be found, no photograph, no friend, no manager, no coworker. I believe she did probably work at a McDonald's, but I believe it was probably not in the United States. And I'm not going further. I'm saying she lived in Canada for an extended period of time while she was young. Maybe she worked at McDonald's in Canada and she's just, she doesn't want that out there. But she shouldn't open up her big mouth and said she did. I'll take her at her word. She worked at McDonald's. Just tell us where.
And honestly, it doesn't even really matter whether she did it or not because, we all know she was born to a middle-class family and, they had to work hard and all that stuff. The story's been out there millions of times. You just threw the McDonald's in for reference. I think this is an attempt. Oh, wait, Jeff agrees with you. Let's get his comment up here. She didn't want the Canadian receipt of her working there. See, people agree with you, Ross. You're on the ball with this stuff. You got your finger on the pulse of the American people, even if they are from Vermont. Sorry, Jeff, had to take that shot. But Yeah, it's about that, but it's also a connection to everyday people. The one thing people say about Democrats is they are aloof. They are not real people. They're sort of, elitish, and they're snobbish, and they look down on the common person that would go to a McDonald's. And they're inauthentic. Trump's in his element with this stunt, quote unquote, because he likes being in this place, he likes being in this environment, and he connects with these people. So why not do something like this to show the genuine Trump, comfortable in his element? He's not out there with his, filet mignon and his baked Alaska. He's in amongst them, even though he has to be kept safe and a safe distance from everyone, but he's amongst them. Let's see if Barbara Lee agrees with us.
There's no logic to it. It's a stunt. He has not put forth an economic agenda. He, as you know, appears to be not well, and he's engaged in some really bizarre types of activities during this campaign. So this is just another one of those stunts that he will continue on through the campaign. And I think that we need to really focus on making sure that he is not elected, of course, because he is a threat to our democracy. We know who.
She literally hit every one of the talking points. Not well, stupid, sick, threat to democracy. She got them all in one statement. It's almost as if it was scripted.
Yeah, where was she when Tim Walz pulled a stunt claiming to be an avid hunter and gun expert, and then couldn't load his own shotgun when Tim was calling him out there? Right? Where was she for that political stunt?
Right,
and
that wasn't a stunt. That was just him. That was just Tim being Tim. He was being authentic and genuine, according to them. It wasn't set up for him at all.
But the last thing I wanted to say on this one, which you alluded to, was he's actually connecting with these people at McDonald's. Not only the customers coming through the drive-through, but the workers there, but he's connecting with them in an authentic way, right? He didn't show up with jean shorts on and put on a McDonald's shirt. He's him. That everybody knows he's rich, everybody knows he's famous, right? But he's in there and he's having fun, and people are having fun with him, and it's authentic, something that the left cannot pull off, right? They're losing male voters because they're not authentic. Why hasn't Tim Walz or Kamala Harris gone to a football game, a baseball game? She's the sitting vice president. She's running the Democratic Party.
Booed out of the arena. They get booed out of the stadium.
Yeah. So we're going to play this later, but she can go to Shea Stadium. She could have went to a Citi Field, right?
Citi Field,
she could have went there, apparently, and you'll see what I mean later. But Tim Walz, why don't he go? Why don't she go throughout the first pitch of the World Series, right? Because they can't. They have no connection to the average person. None.
Well, let's talk about stunts for a moment, shall we? Because I did put together a little compilation of some other stunts that maybe should be called out. For instance, how about this stunt to start off with? How about kneeling in the halls of Congress as a sign of protest for the laws that they themselves passed? The stunt with Schumer and Pelosi wearing the African garb there. How about this stunt with the kitty desk in the Oval Office?
Ready.
All right, we're going in 5, 4, 3, 2.
On a bike in his suit.
How about this stunt with Pete Buttigieg getting dropped off by SUV with his bicycle, then while wearing a suit, getting on the bicycle and then riding it to work as if he'd been riding to work the whole time? How about this one? Are we calling out stunts or are we not calling out stunts, right? This is the quintessential political stunt, and you're just getting a behind-the-scenes look at the stunt. Now watch. He goes along with this guy in the red jacket here, and then watch the SUV trail along with him. There's a stunt for you. Come on, really?
Gene, that was a brilliant little montage there. And seeing those masks reminded me of all the other stunts during that time period, where on tape, you can look this up, people, multiple government officials with no masks on behind the curtain, but as soon as they come out on stage, they put the mask on and then they get to the podium and they take it back off. All stunts. Everything's a fucking lie.
Absolutely. Here's another comment from Jeff, by the way. 1 in 8 have worked at a McDonald's. How many have heard the Dems crap on their once probably decently remembered jobs? And especially young people who would start working at places like this. Jeff also chiming in with another comment here. Oh, come on, Gene. Next you will tell me Orson Welles did a stunt broadcast back in like 1930 about Martians invading. Yeah, I could have sworn that happened too. Oh, there's one other stunt I want to show you, by the way, pal. Check out this one, because I stopped the clip a little short. We got a little time. Watch this. So there's the rest of Buttigieg. And then we have this.
Oh my goodness, you guys look amazing. Happy Take Your Child to Work Day.
They brought a bunch of kids in. Not just kids of people who work at the White House, but also reporters who work in the press room with Karine Jean-Pierre. And they set up a whole stunt of the kids interviewing the press secretary and just listen to, basically using children as pawns in their political game.
I wonder if I can guess whose kid is who. Should I try? No, I'm not going to do that. So President Biden is so excited to welcome approximately, I think, about 600 kids, including children of staff, children of reporters, to take your child to work day at the White House. This White House is full of parents, guardians, grandparents, uncles, aunts, and many more who serve our nation each day.
I mean, you want to talk about political advertisements? You want to talk about political advertisements here? Using kids? But clearly, going to the McDonald's is much more of a political stunt, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Gene, the hardcore left has no sense of humor. That's why it's so easy to troll them online. And Trump is an expert at trolling these people. The McDonald's campaign stop, you can call it a stunt, but it was the ultimate troll, right? It kept that stupid comment that Kamala made that she worked at McDonald's in the news and just showed how stupid she was. And she has no response. They're just going to call it a political stunt. Okay, fine. But we got a good laugh out of it at their expense.
Absolutely. By the way, to everybody on KLRN Radio watching on X, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Tune in to the replay where you'll see our final thoughts. And pal, it's just about time for those final thoughts. And let me see if I can put up a video here to accompany your final thought. Why don't you set up your final thought, and I'll put the video up for you.
So over the last few months, Donald Trump has been hinting at New York being in play electorally. Obviously, I think it's tongue-in-cheek. He is doing an event at Madison Square Garden, which sold out rather quickly, and I'm curious to see where the overflow crowd goes. But with that said, as I thought New York would be close, right? Especially after Lee Zeldin's performance in the last gubernatorial election there. But then I came across a video of a Phillies fan over at Citi Field interviewing Met fans and finding out where their head is at and who they're going to be voting for. And I wish I would have seen this video prior to me placing a bet on the Mets, because I've lost all faith in Mets fans totally, and the state of New York.
My dog before I voted for Donald Trump.
Can I ask you who you're voting for this year?
Voting for what?
For president. Can I ask you who you're voting for in this election?
Phillies?
Trump or Kamala?
Phillies.
Anti-Trump.
Can I ask any of you guys who you're voting for in the election?
Kamala, baby, let's go. Oh, come on. Now, we don't do this. Go back to Philly, bro. This is New York.
No.
I love the saltiness of the Mets fans being like, get the hell out of here. We're from New York.
Yeah, but they said they were voting for Kamala.
Haven't found any Phillies fans yet. Can I ask any of you guys who you're voting for? In the election?
The election?
Who are you voting for?
You're a Philly fan. Get the f*** out of here, brother.
LGM, baby.
Oh, no. Can I ask you who you're voting for? Oh, man.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
I hope those are the undercover Trump voters.
Oh, I'm sure that they are.
Oh, Jesus. Can I ask you guys who you're voting for in this election?
The New York Mets, baby. That's who.
Ah.
You voting for Trump or Kamala? Kamala. Can I ask you guys who you're voting for this year?
Grimace.
Grimace?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, Grimace is God. Grimace has got to the Mets. So I'll write in Grimace in New York. Not like my vote here matters anyway.
You get a new pair of shoes, bro. Look at that footwear, dude.
Roasted. Can I ask you who you're voting for?
Grimace. Let's go fucking Mets, baby.
I think that's our third vote for Grimace, you guys. Can I ask you who you're voting for in the election?
Kamala.
Can I ask you guys who you're voting for in the election?
I'm voting for Kamala Harris.
Why are you voting for Kamala?
Because I love her.
Who are you voting?
All right, so we get the gist of it, right? So go. Did you expect less from New Yorkers? Come on. This is the bluest of blue.
Bro, that's so embarrassing. Met fans seek help. Gene, you're an actual Met fan. How?
How am I a Met fan?
Those are your people?
I was born into it. No, I don't claim them as my people. I claim the team as my people. Met fans are what they are. I mean, listen, the thing about being a Met fan is you get used to losing a lot. So am I shocked that a lot of them are going for Harris? No, not so much.
Let me just say this last piece, and I'll throw it over to you, Gene, to close this out. Mayor Eric Adams, you know what you need to do. I expect to see you at Madison Square Garden, and you need to do the right thing. They're after you, just like they're after Trump. And when Trump wins, he will have the pardon power for federal crimes. Do the right thing.
All right. Brilliant last thought, pal. Mine is about something that really freaking annoys me. And that is going on social media and seeing all of the early voting ballot selfies that are out there. Can't freaking stand these people who have main character syndrome going around taking a snapshot of their ballot and saying, oh, I voted for Harris. Yay, great. You know what? We don't need to know. We don't care to know. The history of this country is based upon secret ballot. If you want to break that secrecy, I guess that's on you. I can't freaking stand it. It's annoying. It's main character syndrome. But it's also illegal in some jurisdictions, including in the People's Republic of New York. So this is a map of places where ballot selfies are allowed and not allowed. The light greenish, you're okay if you're in that state and you want to snap a shot of your ballot. The ones that are dark blue, illegal. We see that it's. Let me actually move the banner a little bit here. We see it's in Florida, in Texas, in Georgia, in West Virginia, in the People's Republic of New York, in Nevada. So in a lot of early voting states, you're screwed if you're taking a picture of your ballot and you're putting it up there. You're basically incriminating yourself. And if you're in other states like Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or Jersey, the law is pretty unclear. So you might end up screwing yourself over with the ballot. So, yeah, guys, no one cares about your freaking ballot right now. No one cares who you individually are voting for. You may think that you have influence or clout or something like that. But I'm here to tell you, you don't. The whole reason we have these anti-ballot selfie laws is because the secrecy of the ballot is meant to be held sacrosanct by the law. Now, in the advent of social media, nothing is sacrosanct anymore, and people are doing whatever the hell they want to. Frankly, it's annoying. I'm tired of it. I don't want to see no more of it in my feed. At least, just give me 2 weeks of that sort of piece. We got ads going on everywhere. We got everyone coming out of the woodwork to talk about politics, whether it's, normal politicians or The Undertaker and Batista and other wrestlers out there. I'm good, guys. I'm good. And that's my final thought for this show. And let's see. We have a final thought in the chat here. Menachem's still with us, even though it's he's breaking Shabbos. My main character. I'm not reading that one.
Oh man, that was great.
Oh, Menachem, what are you doing? And Jeff, the most realistic moment in my life was realizing I was not a main character. But damn it, I will cling the F out of this. And obviously, so many others, pal. And just like that, we're done here. It's been a great show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know a lot of people out there got election fatigue, and I really appreciate the few and the proud, and the hundreds on the Twitters and everybody else on Rumble and on YouTube. You guys are awesome. We appreciate that you're here. But I think it's time to shut it down unless you got something else to say, bro.
Gene, shut it down. Let's get out of here.
Oh, let's get out of here. Thank you so much for the great show. Thank you, Jeff, for all your comments. Thank you to everybody else that commented, Christy and Menachem and Rick and everybody else that's out there. So for now, until next week, when we'll have about a week to go before we actually find out who's going to be the next president of the United States, Gene and Ross signing off here from the People's Republic of New York. We are behind enemy lines, and we are out of here. So play my motherfucking theme song.
Not allowed, not without electoral.
Go fuck yourself. Is that clear?
Teeth, don't let them have sway. Conservative battalions walking them out, marching through the streets while the buffoons all shout. Move in the shadows, flag on my chest, repping my clan, putting faith to the test. Cause some they lose behind enemy lines, fighting for the truth, feels like wartime. Don't back down, keep it rugged and raw, cool in the chaos, but loud in the war. But loud in the war. Our chance. If I ever stare with a smirk in a gaze, holding down the fort in this Democrat cage. Whispers in the dark, strategies unfold, allies unseen, but bonds remain bold. Commitment to the cause in the heart of the storms. In the name of freedom, we're breaking the norm. Cause let's stay blue behind enemy lines, fighting for the truth. Feels like wartime. Don't back down, keep it rugged and raw. Cool in the chaos, but loud in this war. Feels like wartime. Don't back down, keep it rugged and raw. Cool in the chaos, but loud in the